Does everyone in recovery need a therapist?
I don't believe they do. And while some of my colleagues may not agree with me there, I think that really is a good news item to say that everyone in recovery does not need a therapist, because therapy is a rather expensive proposition that may be out of the reach of many people. I think it's possible to do good recovery, very good recovery, by putting in place some of the things that are basic to the recovery process, like begin attending 12-step meetings, get a sponsor, have a high level of accountability, begin reading regularly everything they can find about recovery, have good accountability with people who are in recovery, talking to them numerous times a week, building as much routine as they can. You know, if you think about how many years they have of acting out, then on the other side is recovery. It's not going to take one or two things to balance the scales out. It will take numerous, multiple activities happening daily and weekly to get a person to a place where they can be in solid recovery. But that may or may not include a therapist. If they can afford a therapist, great. If they can't, I think they can do good recovery without it.
What are some indicators they should look for if it might mean that they needed a therapist, or a therapist might be helpful? What kinds of things is a therapist helpful with?
One of the things is to really get recovery started right. That if they wanted to use a therapist, a sex addiction therapist, someone who's trained in working with sexual addiction, can help them get their recovery off to a good, solid start. Even if somebody's been in recovery for a while, something that I believe is real helpful is working with the therapist on looking at family of origin issues, helping to understand some of the things that may have contributed to sexual addiction, relationship problems, being able to work through the difficulties sexual addiction has caused with a spouse and the injury to the relationship.
What about if they're just having trouble getting sober? If the 12-step approach, either they're not utilizing it properly, or it doesn't seem to be working?
Some people are in recovery for many years and unfortunately have never achieved a level of sobriety that they've been able to maintain. And for them, therapy may be the best choice.
So therapy might uncover roadblocks that either they were unaware of or unable to deal with.
Help them to see the things that are standing in their way, certainly.
And maybe after a slip or a relapse?
After a slip is a good time to consider seeing a therapist, or if a person has gone through a full-blown relapse, at that point it may be that they need not just therapy, but they need a much more aggressive approach, like an intensive program, perhaps even inpatient treatment.
And what might they look for in a therapist?
They need to have someone who has expertise in dealing with sexual addiction. It's not enough just to have a therapist affirm that, oh yes, I have clients who are sexual addicts, but how much training have they had? How many have they worked with? How long have they been doing it? What was their training like? What was involved in it? And a number of times therapists will be willing to talk with potential clients by telephone, and some even in person, to see if there's a good fit.